Blessed to be with you, Kevin Miller in the morning, KIDO Talk Radio. And even honored to have our great friend Brent Bozell joining us, founder of the Media Research Center, author of the new book, Unmask Big Media's War Against Trump. Mr. Bozell, thank you for joining us.
Thank you for having me. It's my pleasure.
You know, having done this for over 25 years, I can remember many times when the Media Research Center was starting out, and obviously your entire work. I always appreciated we would have you on. We have Dan Gaynor on now, but you always took time for the baby talk show hosts like myself across the country, and you realize the importance of the medium. So thank you for always making yourself available to us.
Well, I'll go a step further. It's not that I recognize the importance of it. I have said publicly that, but for talk radio, I wonder if this country, as a free country, would exist any longer. And I mean this quite seriously, because talk radio has been more than any other medium, past and present and to come, a steady connection with the grassroots, whether it's national programs or local programs. Doesn't make any difference. Every program has had a steady connection. So I turn it around and thank you.
Well, for people that don't understand how many years the Media Research Center has been rolling and its important role, could you share that with us before we talk about Unmasked?
Sure. And we started in 1987. I actually came up with a concept in a parking lot at the DFW airport. And if you like to know, it was the Avis parking lot. Back in 83. And the idea was that it just didn't matter what our cause was, whatever your issue was, social issues, economic issues, foreign policy, national defense, didn't matter. Your ideas were good ideas, but when they went through the filter of the liberal media, they came out sewage on the other end to the American people. And this was happening to all of us. If you look back in 87, you had ABC, NBC, CBS, a beginning of CNN. You had Time, Newsweek, U.S. News. You had a few newspapers, AP and UPI, and they all had one thing in common. They're all left-wing. There wasn't a single conservative voice until, you had National Review every 2 weeks. You had Human Events that nobody read. And then you had things, you had Paul Harvey's talk show in Chicago. And, you could put a message in a bottle and throw it in the ocean. That's how conservatives communicated. So back then it was rather remarkable. So there was more of a media control back then, but it was a certain kind of bias that is nothing compared to what you see today, making you rue the good old days of Walter Cronkite.
Indeed. And finally, before we get to the war on Trump, we're big fans of your son, David. We have him on all the time. So we'd ask you to send him a little message. We'll play it for him the next time we have him on to kind of throw him off. Any advice for David?
I'll tell him that. Yeah, he's doing a remarkable job with my other organization, For America. Just remarkable what he's doing, using social media better than any other conservative group. As a matter of fact, he was the very first, and a whole lot of organizations have emulated him, and he's helped them do it. So that's a whole new medium for us, and he's leading the way.
Well, we're going to share that with him the next time we have him on, and we sure appreciate David's work and your work, sir. So the war on Trump, how is it different than, let's say, the campaign against President Bush when he was in office?
Good question. What's the difference between the war on Trump and the war on Nixon, the war on Reagan? I think there was the war on Trump is more pronounced than any war against a president in the history of this republic. There's just no question about that. You can look at it quantitatively, as we have, doing an analysis every month, finding it's 91%, 89%, 94%, 92% negative every single month, even though there's this wide swath of accomplishments that this administration has registered in its first year alone. I mean, just incredible on the economic front, on the foreign policy front, on the social front, unlike anything any conservative really can tell you they expected. So you've got the quantitative agenda, but then it's the qualitative. It's not just negative, but it's ferociously negative. And it's not just negative, it's personal. And it's not just personal against him, it's personal against his family. Unheard of, where it is accepted to do all these things. So, Kevin, the question is why? Why is it so bad? I'll submit there are three reasons. First reason, in running, he promised to undo the Obama revolution. And that's where the media had put all their chips. And Hillary Clinton was going to solidify this fundamental transformation of America, which is what Obama promised. And let me tell you, on a lot of fronts, he succeeded. Trump promised to roll it back. That was point number one. Point number two, they despised him personally. They created this monster in their eyes by Hollywood and by giving him so much ink, and he brought so much attention and so many ratings to them, and all that was well and good. But then this uppity punk said, now I'm going to run for president. At first, they thought it was hilarious, and they mocked him, and they tried to hang him around the neck of the Republicans. But then they realized he was getting traction, and that mocking turned to more aggressive and more negative, and at the end, hate-filled coverage to prevent this man from being president, and since then, to remove him from the presidency. And the third angle was that he declared war on them. Yes, you've had confrontations between the press and presidents such as Ronald Reagan, but never to the degree where the president declared war on them and has put them on the defensive and has repeatedly humiliated. Their numbers have nosedived. CNN is in a flame out right now. You put those three things together, and what you've got, defending Obama, attacking him personally, and he going after them. Put it together, and you've got the perfect storm, and that's why you have this.
Brent Bozell joining us, founder of the Media Research Center, Big Media's War Against Trump, Unmasked, on KIDO Talk Radio with Kevin Miller in the morning. So, Mr. Bozell, you're a businessman. Obviously, if people did not want accountability, the Media Research Center would be out of business. And yet you have the media, as you say, and we all agree, takes it personally, even though it's bad for business to be so partisan against this president.
Yeah, I told Rush one time that every night he needed to get on his knees and thank God for people like Jim Acosta and Rachel Maddow and Chris Matthews, because if it weren't for them, he wouldn't have a career, and neither would you. But it's because the public listens to these people, and more they're saying this is hogwash, especially when you listen to someone like a George Stephanopoulos or Cuomo at CNN, where they purport to be objective news reporters, and they're nothing of the sort. More and more people are saying, where can I get the truth? And they're going to talk radio, which makes it interesting. There's more news on talk radio, on partisan talk radio, than there is in the news media. I firmly do believe that. So that is the direction where we're concerned. Somebody once said to me, one of our supporters once said to me, in the last 4 years, I've given you $1 million, and now I'm getting a fund repeal letter from you, and it says the media are more liberal than ever before. And he said, how well is my investment working with you? Hell of a question. And my answer was, ultimately, it doesn't matter how liberal the media are. They could be raging communists. The important thing is for the public to know what they are, and if they're raging communists, to know that they're raging communists, which I don't believe, but I do believe they're raging socialists. I do believe they are the tip of the spear of radicalism in America today. It's not Nancy Pelosi. It's not that stupid AOC. And what a moron she is. It's not any one of the 3,800 Democrats running against Trump. It's none of those things. It's the liberal media that are leading this leftist lurch. And I can prove it. What if they weren't? What if the media were doing their job? What if they were reporting about what Sanders believes in? What if they were reporting the truth about Biden? Do you know that yesterday Joe Biden called for a physical revolution against Republicans? You know that?
No.
He absolutely did. He called for brass knuckles, and then he called for it's time for a physical revolution against Republicans. I guarantee you that won't be anywhere. Now, just reverse it. What would happen, do you think, if yesterday Donald Trump had called his supporters to have a brass knuckles physical confrontation with Democrats? What do you think the coverage would be?
Oh, it'd be insane.
So this is why I maintain to you, they are the most powerful arm of the left. If they told the truth about this, Joe Biden would not be a candidate today. He'd be out as a candidate.
Brent Bozell joining us, author of Unmasked. Mr. Bozell, we've got you for a couple more minutes. How dangerous is this continuation of the Russian collusion delusion?
Well, it's very dangerous. Look, the media tied their sails to the mast of collusion. And this started before the end of 2016. It was all the rage in 2017, all the rage in 2018. The media constantly pointing to the Mueller report, the Mueller report, the Mueller report. When it comes out, leak after leak after leak. And we discussed this in the book. How many leaks have come out on this that weren't true? The fake news that was out there. We've covered this in the book. It's fascinating, folks, to see this. Brian Ross, for example, Brian Ross ran a story in, I think it was January or February of 2017, the definitive story proving collusion. It was a leaked memo, he reported, that showed that Michael Flynn, Trump's national advisor, foreign policy advisor, had been sent to Russia, which proved there was collusion. When he reported it, the market dropped 300 points. Then it came out there was only one itty-bitty little fact wrong, which was he didn't send him before the election. He sent him after the election, which is what he was supposed to do. But the damage was done. The news was everywhere. Brian Ross was suspended. He ended up resigning in disgrace. Doesn't make any difference. They had done one more bite at the apple of collusion. So Mueller comes out with his report. Everyone believes, it's over. The evidence is here. Well, it was over. Mueller vindicated him. And you would think the media would say, okay, this one's over. They have doubled down, Kevin. They've done just the opposite. Now they're going after Mueller. Now they're going after Bob Barr. It is scorched earth. We predicted it in the book. It was scorched earth. It's going to be this way from now until the election. They want him. If they can't remove him, they want to damage him so badly that a Democrat will win. It's open war.
It is. And the move towards impeachment, where you have, and you guys cover this in the media research, and I'm sure you covered this in the book, Mr. Bozell, Unmasked, yep. The move towards impeachment, not covering it, but cheering on it. That's got to be dangerous to our republic.
Yeah, we cover that in the book. All the Mueller report hadn't come out. And our contention was it just wouldn't matter. No matter what happened, they would call for impeachment, and we were right. And then we predicted all the different committees that will move toward impeachment on different fronts. And it's happening exactly as we said it was going to happen. It's rather kind of uncanny. But we pegged this one, Tim Graham and I pegged this one correctly. And it's not going to stop. Impeachment, impeachment, impeachment. They know they can't impeach him. But my belief is, they can impeach him. They can't remove him. My belief is if I am a Democrat, my goal would be to push this thing as far as possible and to get that vote as close to the election as possible, to get the momentum of impeachment against Trump. But just understand, the thing that worries them, and we covered this in Unmasked, all the leadership knows this could backfire in a ferocious way, like it backfired with the Republicans against Clinton. It's so the Monica Lewinsky impeachment process so emboldened Clinton's base and so upset his base that they turned out in record numbers to vote for him. The very same thing could happen with the Trump base. The left could overplay its hand in a big way and so mobilize and so anger, not just the Trump people, but new people who know this is a farce, who've watched this, who weren't Trump supporters, but see that you've got the radical left, led by the media, trying to undo the will of the American people, undo the voters, an election, which is why it's so dangerous. They'll see it, and they'll go to the Trump side. So this could backfire royally. I don't know which way it's going to go. Are the media going to deliver this to the Democrats, or are the media going to cause the Republicans to win? Either way you look at it, it's going to be the media.
Mr. Boesel, we appreciate you. We urge folks to go get unmasked, and we're going to say hey to David the next time we have him on.
Fantastic. Good talking to you.
Thank you, Brent Boesel, joining us. Your thoughts next on the media's war against President Trump. Kevin Miller, KIDO Talk Radio.
Unspeakable horrors have been executed by the United States in the name of citizenship, in the name of determining who is a citizen. And by citizen, we mean who is a person in our democracy. That is what citizenship means. It is an acknowledgement of personhood in American democracy, an acknowledgement of power. And when I think about Supreme Court decisions, with this, I think about Dred Scott. I think about Korematsu versus the United States, where the Supreme Court upheld Japanese internment regardless of the citizenship status of Japanese Americans. And how did that start? It started with the United States Census. We have laws on the books saying that information from the census cannot be used in any other way, that it must be confidential. And what happened when the federal government, the executive branch, the president of the United States, I don't care if he was a Democrat, I don't care if he was a Republican, it was wrong. And what he did, he asked for information, and the Census Bureau broke the law and divulged information on zip codes where Japanese Americans were concentrated. And that
Does anybody really know what she's talking about?
Information was used to intern American citizens and non-American citizens alike. And the Supreme Court upheld that. Dred Scott, a black man suing for his freedom, came right before the United States Supreme Court. And what they said was that the U.S. Constitution did not give African American citizenship. They have gotten it wrong. The Supreme Court has gotten it wrong.
So here we have Congresswoman Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez saying the Supreme Court is wrong, American history is wrong, we're all wrong. And she, at the tender age of 27 or 29, knows everything.
And unspeakable violations of human rights and civil liberties have been executed by the United States government in light of that.
I don't think she'll be speaking at the 4th of July parade, either in Boise or in Washington, D.C. Traffic and weather together. Let's get you to work safely and on time. Kevin Miller in the morning. Hello, Dave. Thank you, Larry. Coming up, more AOC. Let's get to your phone calls. Blair in Boise with Kevin Miller on KIDO Talk Radio. Blair, good morning.
Hey, good morning, Kevin. Hey, question real quick. Wasn't this the same person who was advocating packing the court in order to get decisions that she liked?
Right. You're right.
So, the other thing I would point out is that both of the courts that she is talking about were controlled by none other than the Democratic Party. Yeah, methinks that there's a few things loose there.
Well, I would agree with you on that. And, and for people that want to hate America so much, if America was so bad, then this young lady wouldn't have been elected. If America is so racist, then Barack Obama wouldn't have been elected. But they were. So, it's one or the other. Is America flawed like all of us? Well, I suppose. But to go back and relitigate these things, coming up, she makes an allegation that we are keeping the illegals in concentration camps. So that's what we'll be discussing. But, like you said, where's the consistency here?
Well, I listen to you every morning, Kevin. You do a fantastic job. Keep it up, and I'm going to keep listening.
Thank you, Blair. Have a great day.
Thanks, you too. Bye.
Bye-bye. All right, coming up next, AOC says we're keeping the illegals in concentration camps. In addition to that, you talk about irresponsible. In addition to that, the president says he's got a plan to round up the illegals. We'll take your calls on that. I do want to thank Brent Boesel for joining us. If you missed that interview, you can always go to KIDOTalkRadio.com to get those podcasts, thanks to Ray Amaya. And the KIDO Talk Radio app is available on Apple and Google. All you do, Apple Podcasts, Google Play. It's free. You don't have to go to a third party. Just look up KIDO Radio, KIDO Talk Radio, and you'll get it. It'll give you access to a lot of great things. You're listening to Kevin Miller on KIDO Talk Radio. Good morning, Maggie. Blessed to be with you. So here we had AOC yapping about how bad America is. Let's continue on.
And I can tell you, as with this Supreme Court argument, they could very well get it wrong again.
There we have it. The Supreme Court could get it wrong again. But as Blair said, and others, didn't they just want to pack the Supreme Court? And I love this, that America is running concentration camps on our southern border. What will they think of next? At 580-5436, 580-KIDO. Other news, the president tweeting that the security incidents related to Hillary Clinton's emails are really, really big. We're talking about earth-shaking. And the president saying, and we really haven't jumped on this, let's let Rachel Sutherland do it. She's a professional when it comes to the newscasting. I only play one on the radio, concerning the president's plan for Immigration and Customs Enforcement, ICE. They're looking at a large-scale crackdown on the illegals. Here's Rachel Sutherland with the latest on KIDO Talk Radio. Oh, actually, there's Rachel there. I was going to go to a story from Rachel, and Rachel appears right before me. You must have known you were on my mind.
Must have. How are you?
Not bad. Before we get to this other topic, I was just thinking of this issue that you've been leading with the national newscast, the president with this massive ICE roundup that really caught ICE kind of out of the loop on this one.
Well, I think ICE, according to the Washington Post, was surprised that the president announced it. Apparently, this has been in the works for some time. In fact, then Homeland Security Secretary Kirstjen Nielsen was citing concerns about it back in April about the plan. She was concerned about lack of preparedness and possible public outrage of, images of families and illegal immigrants being rounded up and deported in cities. And so it is kind of curious, though, because typically these types of operations, law enforcement doesn't want to tip off folks that could be coming after them. And this is like giving them a week's notice. I don't know what they would do about it, but it is strange. And so ICE apparently was just caught off guard by the Twitter announcement, not by the plan itself. Right.
And as you disclosed in your previous reporting, the former Secretary of Homeland Security had a few issues with that concerning, how to make this happen and the appearance of some type of public backlash she was fearing.
Yeah. The logistics of it, too. And this would be a sweeping, large operation. The president is talking about millions, and already ICE is overextended. Border Patrol is overextended. So it makes you wonder, how they plan on doing this, exactly what the numbers of people will be, where they'll be taken. Because once someone's in federal custody, then if someone gets sick, then it's on the government to take care of them. So they must have everything in place, you would think. But the president saying that this is going to happen. These are people who are already have been given orders to leave. I mean, they're under deportation orders anyway and have overstayed. So it looks like this is just more of an enforcement type of system. But again, we don't know all the details of the plan, how many will be removed, how it will happen. And because we didn't know about it specifically, that it would be happening next week until the president made the announcement on Twitter.
Well, the president, he's always rolling. Speaking of rolling, this is in our neck of the woods. You've got Supreme Court tosses ruling against Oregon bakers who refuse to make cakes for the gay couple.
Yeah, this is a couple that did own a bakery, the Kleins, who didn't want to bake a cake for a same-sex couple back in 2013. They were actually fined $135,000. I've seen reporting that they actually lost their business over it. And in this case, U.S. Supreme Court didn't want to step into the actual crux of the issue, which is pitting gay rights against the religious freedom rights. So they then sent this back to a lower court there in Oregon and said, please take a look at this again in light of the other cake, the Masterpiece cake case that went up to the U.S. Supreme Court. Jack Phillips there refused to make one of his cakes for a same-sex couple, but he won at the Supreme Court. But part of his argument, Kevin, was that his cakes are actually a work of art and therefore freedom of expression. He not only argued that his religious rights were being violated, but his First Amendment rights to free expression.
And this is why we love Rachel Sutherland going with the details on the other case in Colorado that a cake is a work of art. I'm sure the cake boss would be proud of that one, man. Great argument.
I mean, some of his cakes, I've seen them. They are quite elaborate. In this case, I'm not sure the Kleins were arguing that. I think that their main beef was the religious freedom aspect. And the Supreme Court just really wants to stay away from these third rail cases. They don't want to really touch abortion. They're staying away from gay rights. I don't know if it's because, really election season is getting into full swing early again this time. Of course, you've seen the people camping out in Orlando waiting for the president's big kickoff today there of his 2020 campaign, even though things have been rolling down the tracks for quite some time. But there's a lot of enthusiasm down there. So, the Supreme Court, they're going to eventually have to rule on this because it's almost like we're in a culture war right now in this nation as to what direction are we going as a country.
Rachel Sutherland, we always appreciate you. Thank you.
Thanks, Kevin.
Liberal Steve joins us now. Good morning.
Buenos dias, Mr. Miller. Gee, the wife was sure giving me trouble this morning. Hey, did you like the group 9 Inch Nails?
Can't say that I did.
Well, I had the CD on at 6 o'clock this morning. The wife was out in the garden, and I had the 9 Inch Nails just blaring away, and I was sitting on top of the speaker. She come in and said, "What the heck you doing?" I said, "I'm just using acoustical wave therapy for my ED." Knock, 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 since you've been advertising it all morning.
No, what I would say to you is I'm more of a Guy Lombardo orchestra guy.
Nothing's going to happen in Iran. Nothing's going to happen anywhere. It's all smoke and mirrors, constant fears. It's both the deep state on the Democrat side and the Republican side. It's just all laughable. It is really laughable. Get everything. Oh, and with this ICE raid, just think how many places they're going to shut down. You're going to have the milk industry hurting. You're going to have component plants and manufacturing plants hurting. Oh, my God. What are we going to do? And where are they going to put them? In FEMA? Of course, they've been doing.
Let me address that question, if I may, sir.
Sure. Go right ahead.
What does it say about an industry that that is dependent on people living and working here illegally? Does that mean that industry really shouldn't be in business to begin with if it's dependent on illegal labor?
I can't answer that for you. I just know out here with the apples where I live and the grapes and the hops, hops are taking over. The booze industry is giving money to the farmers or something. I don't know, because it costs about $20,000 an acre to start hops, and they're growing like crazy out there. I just going to be laughable when ICE comes in and gets all these people I see running around these grape fields and these hop fields and stuff.
You don't know that those people are not here legally. They're not undocumented. You don't know that.
I'm not blind, Kevin, and I have ears. So come on, we'll wait and see. Okay.
Well, how do you know that? How do you know that they're here legally?
Well, I would say that it's obvious that a certain percentage is here illegally, like usual, like always. In California, when I lived in San Diego, I remember ICE helicopters coming into the component plants that built walls and trusses and stuff, landing right out in the yards and get out, and everybody just scatter and run. It was crazy. They've been doing it forever. It's nothing new.
What is new is the president said he's going to round them up.
Kevin, the president isn't going to do anything. ICE is going to do it. The president is nothing. What he should do is round up Sarah Sanders. What happened overseas that she come back and all of a sudden quit? That's what I'd like to know.
I think she wanted time with her family.
Oh, yeah, I bet you she did. Anyway, you stay fired up, and that's all I can tell you.
And by the way, you're wrong. Most of these people here are on H-1B visas.
You know that for sure?
As well as you know what's going on in the fields.
Then we're both the same.
I'll
We're
put my
50-50.
my source against your source any day.
That sounds kind of kinky. Anyway, you stay fired up, Miller. And all your listeners out there, you conservatives that think you're conservatives, you're really Democrats. And if Republicans in this red state been doing so well, why are we in the situation we're always in? Just a minute. Can the homeless people live in that HP building? I bet you there's lots of room.
Well, be kind.
Stay fired up, Miller.
Be kind.
Stay fired up.
Be kind.
I am kind.
Be kind.
I'm kind. I'm kind of kind.
Thank you, Liberal Steve.
Thank you, Mr. Miller.
Barb in Sunny Slope with Kevin Miller on KIDO Talk Radio. Good morning, Barb.
Hi there. Good morning. So first, I'd like to just quickly comment on Steve's comment that indeed they're mostly, since I work at a farm and I'm associated with multiple farms, indeed they are here legally. Most of the farms won't hire illegally because there's some real repercussions to that. So I sustain what you said. They are here legally on these H something or other visas. I really got a kick out of AOC this morning saying that back when they rounded up the Japanese, they got the zip codes where they all were, and they rounded them up and put them in concentration camps. My mouth just dropped. I thought, are you kidding me? They didn't even have zip codes back then. Zip codes weren't started till 1963, but of course, she's not smart enough to look that up before she comments like that. I'm just in awe of her. I just cannot imagine how she has the mind to be able to mix strengths, never mind end up in Congress. And what does she want us to do with all these people coming in if she doesn't want them in facilities that we are providing with food and medical care? Just leave them out in the desert to dehydrate and die? I mean, she is sitting there saying that as a congresswoman at $170,000 a year, she needs a raise. She does not get enough money to live on at $170,000 a year. And what does she want people that don't make $170,000 to do? Take all these illegals in? We're paying for them anyway, but that's another point. I don't know. You want to respond to any of that?
Well, I think it is ridiculous when people are wanting a raise for the Congress people, and most folks in Idaho, you know, they don't get a raise. And here we have this group wanting to raise the minimum wage in Idaho, which we'll get to. But, you know, the idea that Congress deserves a pay raise, I don't think so.
Definitely not. And even my teenage, when they were teenagers, my teenage grandchildren would hear about this comment of why don't we raise the minimum wage, you know, at McDonald's. And even they were smart enough to say, well, if they raise the minimum wage in McDonald's or wherever else you're working, won't that increase the price of the need for the product or eliminate some people working? These were, you know, just high school kids, but I largely raised them, so you know, they were smarter than the average liberal, that's for sure. So, you know, if they can figure out that if you raise the minimum wage, you're just going to cause problems with either having to eliminate some of the workers or having to raise the price of the product, which then just cycles around and does the same thing over and over and over again. I cannot imagine why we're even giving this thought and consideration.
Thank you, Barb. Take care.
Can't. Right on. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye. Right on. More of your calls next. Kevin Miller, KIDO Talk Radio. Blessed to be with you, Kevin Miller in the morning. More of your phone calls. Let's go to Tess in Boise. Tess, good morning.
Hi, good morning. Well, I called in to maybe help people breathe a little bit easier. So, you know, one of the things that I do is I try to go to as many events as I can, and I photograph. I take a lot of different types of photos, especially crowd photos, panoramic videos. So it's concerning to hear someone call in who says, ooh, you know, there's 60,000 people at the event here this weekend. Well, no, there weren't 20, there weren't tens of thousands. It looked a lot like the same group that I've seen down there over the past 5 years. And I would say a good estimate from my photographs and talking with people. Now, you have to remember, there are multiple other events that are occurring at the same time. So the crowds intermix with each other. But I would say the same support group of maybe around 3,500, 3,700 to 4,000 that are down there specifically for that event, which is about what shows up at the other types of events geared towards that opinion or that view. So take a big sigh of relief, and just kind of go with the flow. And remember, the proof isn't always in the pudding, but it sure is in a current photograph.
So you're talking about the gay parade.
I am talking about the gay parade, right? Just as, I also sent you some photographs of yet, another van. This was a brand new Ford transport van over at Walmart. This was day before yesterday. It had about 20 young guys in it that were, I would say, 18 to 20 years old. One guy was sporting a lot of gold chains, non-English speaking, with one adult that was the driver that was in the Walmart parking lot, like the two buses a couple of weeks before.
Now, which Walmart? Which Walmart?
At Overland. And I would imagine that probably Overland by the interstate. And it's probably convenient for them because it's close and right on the interstate. But again, no English speaking. And this transport van, what you'll see on the photographs is that there are also no license plates on this van.
No, I did see the photos. So you're saying that these folks are coming in and doing, who knows what they're doing?
Well, they're moving through the community. Unfortunately, we had to go to the ER here this weekend, and we did see that the ER has posted a measles alert, and we did see that there were a lot of non-English speaking people for what looked like pretty minor injuries there using the ER. And then at night, traveling back through Boise off of Overland, we saw individuals really late, like around midnight, carrying garbage bags that obviously on foot, walking up Overland, who very apparently they're not homeless. I do a lot with the homeless. They are transients that are moving through the area that look like the same parts of these individuals who are coming through the Boise area.
Well, you never know. Maybe the federal government dropped off some people that came in through Texas.
Well, only the shadow knows, eh?
Indeed. Tess, thank you for the call.
Mm-hmm.
A lot of disturbing observations by Tess. Traffic and weather together. KIDO Talk Radio, 107.5 FM, 580 AM. Good morning, Dave. And I'm Kevin Miller in the morning. Of course, O.J. Simpson in the news once again. You take a look at this week marking the 25th anniversary of one of the most famous moments in television history. You remember this, O.J. and the white Bronco chase. How many people can recall where they were when CNN and all the broadcast networks cut to the scene of Simpson in the white Bronco fleeing police to avoid murder charges? Now, NBC put the chase on a split screen with Game 5 of the NBA Finals. I don't know if anybody remembers who was in the NBA Finals that year, but Simpson and Al Collins, he's the guy driving the Bronco, eventually returned to O.J.'s home, where O.J. surrendered to the police. Most of us thought that was it for old O.J. Now O.J. has taken to Twitter saying he's got a lot of scores to settle. He's got a lot of truth to get out there. How many people in their right mind really understand what O.J. Simpson is about? And really, does O.J. Simpson understand what he's about? And how many of us watched the Bronco chase and some great TV moments? Of course, our thoughts and prayers go out to the Goldman family and to the Brown family as well. As we said, O.J. Simpson launching his Twitter account, apparently in response to a podcast by Ron Goldman's sister. Thinking about this, Kim Goldman joined Fox and Friends talking about her podcast, in which she says 2 former jurors concede that they were never going to get a conviction. Goldman fully blames the jury for letting Simpson go. Kim Goldman believes O.J.'s Twitter launch last week was just as reactionary as his 2007 armed robbery. It occurred the same day the book If I Did It was published. Boy, O.J. Simpson should just chill out. That's the last thing I think that we need is O.J. Simpson on social media, right? Who knows? Can O.J. run for office? They say there's a second or third act for all of us in America. Let's hope he passes on that one and deletes his Twitter account. We can all live without O.J. on Twitter.